The security guard's hand froze on his coffee cup. Through the rain-streaked window of the Royal Archive building, he watched a black Range Rover pull up to the side entrance. No appointment. No advance notice. Just the quiet hum of an expensive engine cutting through the midnight silence. Inside sat Tom Parker Bowles. Camilla's son? The Queen Consort's stepson? A man who had no official business being here at this hour. The guard set down his cup. His pulse quickened. Something wasn't right. London had been swallowed by November fog, the kind that muffled sound and hid secrets. The guard pressed his face closer to the glass. Tom stepped out of the vehicle, collar up, eyes scanning left and right. He moved like someone who didn't want to be seen. Behind him came another figure. Older, gray suit. Leather briefcase. The guard didn't recognize him, but he recognized the walk. Confident, purposeful. This was someone who knew exactly where he was going. The guard reached for his logbook. His supervisor had been clear about protocol. Anyone entering after hours gets documented. No exceptions. Royal family or not. But as his pen touched paper, his phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Don't write anything down. We'll explain tomorrow. His stomach dropped. Someone was watching. Someone knew he was about to make a record. If you're finding this story as gripping as we are telling it, hit that subscribe button now. You won't want to miss what happens next. The guard looked back at the window. Tom and the gray-suited man had disappeared inside. The door had closed behind them without a sound. No alarms. No alerts. Whoever they were, they had access codes. The guard's mind raced. The Royal Archive wasn't just any building. It housed centuries of valuables, historical artifacts, jewels that hadn't seen daylight in decades, documents that could rewrite history books. Everything was cataloged. Everything was protected. So why was someone sneaking in at midnight? He thought about calling the main security line, but that text message stopped him cold. Someone powerful wanted silence. Someone who knew his phone number. Someone who could track his movements. The rain drummed harder against the glass. Minutes passed like hours. The guard's coffee went cold. His shift wasn't over until 6 in the morning, but waiting felt impossible now. Then, through the fog, he saw them emerge. Tom carried nothing. His hands were empty. But the gray-suited man clutched his briefcase differently now. Tighter, like it held something precious. Something that hadn't been there before. They climbed back into the Range Rover. No words exchanged. No hesitation. The engine purred to life, and they vanished into the London night. The guard stared at his blank logbook. His pen still hovered over the page. One entry could change everything. One line could expose whatever just happened. But that text message burned in his mind. By morning, whispers would start to spread. By afternoon, questions would be asked. And by evening, secret that should have stayed buried would begin clawing its way to the surface. The guard couldn't sleep. He lay in his small flat, staring at the ceiling, replaying every second. The way Tom had looked over his shoulder, the weight of that briefcase, the threatening text that still sat unanswered on his phone. At 8 in the morning, his supervisor called. "Did anything unusual happen last night?" The guard's throat tightened. Define unusual. Just answer the question, Marcus. Marcus. His supervisor never used his first name. This was serious. Everything was quiet, Marcus lied. The words tasted bitter. Silence on the other end. Then a sigh. Good. Keep it that way. The line went dead. Marcus sat on the edge of his bed, hands shaking. Keep it that way. That wasn't advice. That was a warning. He had worked at the Royal Archive for 7 years. Never missed a shift. Never broken protocol. He believed in the system. Believed in protecting history. But now, that system felt like it was protecting something else entirely. By noon, the news broke. Not the full story. Just pieces. Fragments that didn't quite fit together. A palace spokesperson issued a brief statement about routine inventory checks. Nothing to worry about. Standard procedure. But Marcus knew better. Routine checks didn't happen at midnight. They didn't involve the queen consort's son sneaking through side doors. They didn't come with anonymous threats. He opened his laptop and searched Tom Parker Bowles' name. Celebrity chef. Food writer. Stepson to the king. A public figure with a clean reputation. Nothing suggested scandal. Nothing pointed to stolen artifacts or secret deals. But then Marcus found something odd. A photograph from 3 weeks earlier. Tom, at a private auction house in Geneva, standing beside a Middle Eastern collector known for acquiring rare royal memorabilia. The caption was innocent enough. A charity event. Wine tasting. Casual conversation. Except Tom's expression in that photo wasn't casual. His smile looked forced. His eyes looked trapped. Marcus dug deeper. The collector's name was Rashid Al-Hashimi, billionaire, art enthusiast. And according to several investigative reports, it's a man who paid top dollar for items that weren't supposed to be for sale. The pieces started connecting. Tom at an auction house. A mysterious meeting weeks later. A briefcase leaving the Royal Archive in the dead of night. Marcus's phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. You're asking questions you shouldn't ask. His blood ran cold. They were watching his internet searches. Monitoring his activity. Whoever was behind this had resources, power, reach. He slammed the laptop shut. His hands wouldn't stop shaking. That evening, Marcus returned to work. His shift started at 6. The building felt different now. Every shadow looked suspicious. Every sound made him jump. He checked the archive logs from the night before. The digital system tracked every door opening, every room accessed. But when he pulled up the midnight hour, entire sections were blank. Erased. Someone with administrator. Access had wiped the records clean. Marcus leaned back in his chair. This wasn't just about one stolen item. This was organized, calculated. Someone inside the palace had authorized it. Someone who could delete evidence and threaten witnesses. He thought about going to the police. But what would he say? That he saw Tom Parker Bowles enter a building he had legal access to? That he felt uncomfortable about a text message? Without proof, he had nothing. And with proof, he might have something far more dangerous. His supervisor appeared in the doorway. Older man. Graybeard. Usually kind. But tonight, his face looked carved from stone. Makuza. A word. They walked to an empty conference room. The supervisor closed the door. I'm going to ask you once, and I need the truth. What did you see last night? Marcus looked his supervisor in the eye. 7 years of trust hung between them. 7 years of working side by side, protecting the same treasures, following the same rules. I saw Tom Parker Bowles, Marcus said slowly, and another man. They came through the side entrance around midnight, stayed maybe 20 minutes. Left with a briefcase, the supervisor's face didn't change. No surprise, no shock, just a slow, tired nod. I thought you might say that you knew. Marcus felt his stomach twist. I suspected. The older man sat down heavily. Marcus, what I'm about to tell you doesn't leave this room. You understand? Marcus nodded, though every instinct screamed at him to run. 6 months ago, an inventory audit revealed something missing. A small item. It's very old. Very valuable. We kept it quiet because we didn't know if it was a clerical error or actual theft. Then 2 months ago, another item vanished. Then another. 3 thefts. Marcus whispered. 3 confirmed. Possibly more. His supervisor rubbed his eyes. Someone with high-level access has been removing pieces from the collection, replacing them with convincing fakes. We've been investigating quietly, trying to catch whoever's responsible. And last night wasn't a theft. Supervisor leaned forward. It was a return. Marcus blinked. What? The items have been showing up at private auctions across Europe. Someone's been leaking royal property to collectors, making a fortune. But recently, one of those collectors got nervous, worried about getting caught with stolen goods. So he hired a middleman to return what he bought. Tom Parker Bowles is the middleman. We don't know his exact role yet, but he was photographed with Rashid al-Hashimi 3 weeks ago, the same Rashid who purchased a 17th century royal snuff box last month, the same snuff box that mysteriously reappeared in our vault this morning. So Tom was returning stolen property? Either that, or he's part of the theft ring, and he's trying to cover tracks before investigators close in.
Ow.
The supervisor stood. Either way, this goes much higher than one chef trying to make extra money. Someone inside the palace gave him access codes. Someone deleted last night's security footage. Someone has been smuggling royal treasures for months. Then why are you telling me this? Marcus asked. Why not keep me in the dark? His supervisor walked to the door, then paused. Because you're going to help us catch them. Before Marcus could respond, his supervisor was gone. Marcus sat alone in the conference room. His phone buzzed again. Another message from the unknown number? Stop digging. Final warning. But this time, Marcus didn't feel afraid. He felt angry. Someone was using the royal family's name to commit crimes. Someone was threatening him for doing his job. Someone thought they were untouchable. He deleted the message and made a decision. He was going to find out who was behind this, no matter the cost. The next morning, Marcus arrived early to work. He had a plan. If the digital logs had been erased, maybe the physical security tapes still existed. Old backup systems that hadn't been upgraded. The kind of thing people forgot about. He found them in a dusty storage room. Boxes of old VHS tapes and DVDs, dated and labeled. He searched for the date 3 months ago, when the second theft supposedly happened. The tape was missing. Marcus felt a chill. Someone had been thorough. They'd thought of everything, except one thing. Marcus remembered the building's exterior cameras, the ones that pointed at the street. The city-owned cameras that the Royal Archive had no control over. If Tom's Range Rover had been captured arriving or leaving, there would be footage. Proof that couldn't be erased by palace insiders. He picked up his phone and called an old friend who worked for Transport for London. Traffic cameras. Parking enforcement. Maybe, just maybe, they'd captured something useful. Marcus, mate, it's been ages, his friend answered. What do you need? A favor. A big one. 20 minutes later, Marcus had his answer. The traffic camera on the corner had caught Tom's vehicle. 2 trips. One 3 months ago, one last week, and one last night. But there was something else on that footage. Something Marcus hadn't expected, in the back seat of the Range Rover. During the visit 3 months ago, sat someone Marcus recognized. Someone whose face had been on every newspaper in Britain. Someone from inside the palace itself. Asterisk, the face in the back seat belonged to Penelope Ashford, senior curator of the royal collection, a woman who had dedicated 40 years to protecting Britain's heritage, a woman who had the highest security clearance in the entire archive system, a woman Marcus had trusted completely. He stared at the frozen image on his phone. The timestamp read 2:17 a.m. 3 months earlier. Penelope sat beside Tom Parker Bowles, her face turned toward the window, but unmistakably her. The sharp profile, the signature pearl necklace, the gray hair pulled back in a tight bun. Marcus felt sick. If Penelope was involved, then nothing was safe. She had keys to every vault, access to every database, knowledge of every security protocol. She could walk out with the crown jewels, and no one would question her. But why? Penelope earned a respectable salary. She lived modestly. She'd turned down lucrative private sector jobs to stay in public service. Money didn't seem like her motivation, unless something had changed. Marcus pulled up recent news about Penelope. Most articles were boring. Award ceremonies, historical conferences, academic papers about preservation techniques. Then he found it, buried in a society column from 8 months ago. A small mention. Penelope's daughter, Charlotte, had been diagnosed with a rare form of cancer. Treatment was experimental, not covered by the NHS. The cost was astronomical. Marcus closed his eyes. A mother desperate to save her child. A woman with access to priceless artifacts. A collector willing to pay any price. It almost made sense. Almost seemed justified. Until Marcus remembered that these weren't just expensive trinkets. They were pieces of history, belonging to the nation. To future generations. His phone rang. His supervisor. "Marcus, where are you?" "Storage room. I found something." "Don't say another word." "Not on the phone. Get to my office. Now." Marcus grabbed his jacket and hurried through the corridors. Staff members passed by, chatting about their weekends, completely unaware that their workplace was built on lies. When he reached the supervisor's office, 3 other people were waiting. 2 he didn't recognize. Dark suits. Government badges. The third was a woman with sharp eyes and a tablet tucked under her arm. "Marcus," his supervisor said carefully, "these are investigators from the royal household. They've been working this case for weeks." The woman with the tablet stepped forward. "Mr. Davis, I'm Inspector Caroline Webb. We understand you have information about last night's incident." Marcus glanced at his supervisor, who nodded. "Tom Parker Bowles returned stolen property," Marcus said. "But he wasn't working alone. Penelope Ashford was with him 3 months ago. I have traffic camera footage." Inspector Webb didn't look surprised. "We know about Penelope. We've been monitoring her for 6 weeks. But we needed to see who else was involved. That's why we let last night's exchange happen." "You let it happen?" Marcus felt betrayed. "You knew they were coming?" "We needed to identify the buyer. The person who's been purchasing these items. Last night we finally got him." She tapped her tablet and a photo appeared. The gray-suited man from the briefcase. His name is Julian Marsh, former Palisade. Dismissed 15 years ago for ethical violations. He's been operating as a broker between Penelope and various collectors worldwide, and Tom Parker Bowles. Inspector Webb's expression hardened. "That's where it gets complicated. Tom isn't part of the theft ring. He's trying to fix his mother's mess." Marcus frowned. "Camilla? The Queen Consort." "Not directly. But 5 years ago, before she married King Charles, Camilla had a private collection of jewelry. Some pieces were gifts. Others were family heirlooms. When she became Queen Consort, protocol required her to donate certain items to the royal collection for public trust." Marcus began to understand. But she kept some pieces. She kept 3 pieces. Sentimental value. Nothing compared to the crown jewels, but still technically royal property. Penelope discovered this during a routine audit last year, and she used it as leverage. "Blackmail," Marcus whispered. Inspector Webb nodded. "Penelope threatened to expose Camilla's violation, unless the Queen Consort looked the other way while Penelope smuggled out more valuable items. For months, it worked. Camilla stayed silent out of shame. Penelope sold artifacts to fund her daughter's treatment. Julian Marsh took his cut as the middleman. Then what changed? Charlotte died 2 weeks ago." Inspector Webb's voice softened. "The daughter Penelope was trying to save. All that money, all those crimes, and it didn't matter. The cancer won anyway." The room fell silent. Marcus thought about Penelope. The grief, the guilt, the realization that she'd destroyed her life's work for nothing, so Tom was returning the items. Rashid al-Hashimi got nervous after Charlotte's death made news. He knew investigators might start connecting dots. So he contacted Tom privately, offering to return everything he'd purchased if Tom could guarantee no prosecution. Tom agreed, hoping to protect his mother from scandal. Marcus rubbed his temples. "This is insane. It gets worse," Inspector Webb said quietly. Inspector Webb pulled up another photo on her tablet. A document. Old. Official looking. Marcus leaned closer. This was one of the items Penelope smuggled out 4 months ago. It's not jewelry. It's a letter. Written in 1936 by Edward VIII, just before his abdication. It was sealed and buried in the archives. Classified. Never meant to be public. Marcus scanned the faded handwriting. His eyes widened as he read that the letter detailed Edward's real reasons for abdicating. Not just love for Vala Simpson, but secret financial dealings with Nazi sympathizers, payments received, promises made, information shared. Things that would have destroyed the monarchy if revealed during World War II. This can't be real, Marcus breathed. Verified by 3 independent historians, and Penelope sold it to a private collector in Berlin for £2 million. Marcus felt the weight of what he was holding. Not just a historical document, but a weapon. Something that could reignite old wounds. Damage the royal family's reputation forever. Where is it now? He asked. That's the problem. Tom only managed to recover about 60% of what was stolen. The Edward letter is still missing. The Berlin collector refuses to return it, says he destroyed it, but we don't believe him. Marcus's supervisor spoke up. If that letter goes public, the scandal won't just hurt the current royal family. It'll raise questions about everything. Whether the monarchy covered up Nazi sympathies, whether other secrets are still hidden, whether anything we've been told is true. So what happens now? Marcus asked. Inspector Webb locked eyes with him. Now we need your help. Penelope knows we're closing in. She's scheduled to appear before an internal review board tomorrow. We think she might run. Or worse. Worse. Penelope has access to things you can't imagine. Documents that could rewrite British history. If she decides to go scorched earth before we arrest her, she could release information that makes the Edward letter look tame. She wouldn't. She dedicated her life to protecting history, not destroying it. She dedicated her life to her daughter, Inspector Webb corrected, and her daughter is dead. People do unpredictable things when they've lost everything. The meeting ended 30 minutes later. Marcus was given instructions. Continue working normally. Report anything unusual. Don't confront Penelope. Don't discuss this with anyone. But as Marcus walked back to his station, couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Inspector Webb's story made sense, but it also felt incomplete. Like pieces were missing. He pulled up Penelope's work schedule. She had requested tomorrow off. The day of her review board hearing? That seemed odd. If she planned to run, why request time off officially? Why not just disappear? Marcus decided to check the archive vault, the place where the most sensitive items were stored. Penelope had been there earlier that morning, according to the entry logs. He took the elevator down 3 floors, used his security badge, walked through the steel doors. The vault was a massive room, climate-controlled, organized with military precision. Every item cataloged. Every shelf labeled. Marcus moved through the rows, checking for anything out of place. Everything looked normal. Until he reached the back corner. A storage box sat open on a table. Inside were gloves, a scanner, and a small notebook. Penelope's notebook. Marcus recognized her handwriting. He flipped through the pages. Most entries were mundane. Dates, item numbers, condition reports. Then he reached the last page. 3 words, written in shaky handwriting. I'm sorry, Marcus. His blood turned to ice. She knew. Somehow, Penelope knew he'd found the traffic camera footage. Knew he'd gone to the investigators. Knew he was part of the trap closing around her. Marcus pulled out his phone to call Inspector Webb before he could dial. The vault door slammed shut. The lights went out. Emergency backup lighting kicked in, bathing everything in red. Marcus ran to the door. Locked. Electronic systems offline. He pulled his phone out. No signal. The vault was designed to block all communications. He was trapped. On the table, Penelope's notebook began to smoke. Marcus lunged for it, but flames erupted from the pages. Some kind of chemical reaction. Within seconds, the notebook was ash. Evidence destroyed. Marcus pounded on the door. Help. Someone. No response. The vault was sunned. He tried to stay calm. Think clearly. The vault had security cameras. Someone would notice he was trapped. Someone would come. But as minutes turned into an hour, no one came. Marcus realized the horrible truth. Penelope had planned this. She'd lured him here, locked him in, cut off his communications, destroyed her own notes, and now, while he was trapped, she was somewhere else, doing something no one could stop. The question was what? And how bad was it going to be? 2 hours passed before Marcus heard the vault door unlock. His supervisor burst in, face pale with panic. "Marcus, thank God. Are you hurt?" "I'm fine." "But Penelope, we know. She's at Buckingham Palace." Marcus's stomach dropped. "What?" "They ran through the corridors," his supervisor explained as they moved. Penelope had requested an emergency meeting with King Charles himself, claimed she had critical information about security breaches, used her decades of trusted service to get through every checkpoint. "She's with him now," his supervisor panted. "Inspector Webb is trying to get palace security to intervene, but Penelope's technically done nothing illegal yet. Just asked for a meeting." She's going to tell him everything, Marcus realized. About Camilla's hidden jewelry, about Tom's involvement, about the Edward letter. She's going to blow up the entire royal family. They reached the security office. Inspector Webb was on 3 phones at once, barking orders. She saw Marcus and relief flashed across her face. "You're alive. Good. We thought never mind. Listen, we've got a crisis." Penelope went straight to the king. "We don't know what she's saying, but it can't be good." A monitor on the wall showed news coverage. Breaking news banners. Reporters gathering outside Buckingham Palace. Someone had tipped off the media. Someone wanted maximum exposure. "She planned this perfectly," Inspector Webb muttered. "Trap the witness. Create a distraction. Go straight to the source. By the time we react, the damage is done." "Can't you just arrest her?" Marcus asked. "On what grounds?" "We have circumstantial evidence. Traffic camera footage that shows her in a car. That's not enough for charges. And if we arrest her now in front of the king, it looks like we're silencing a whistleblower. The optics would destroy us." Marcus thought fast. "What if we could prove she's lying? How? The items she returned last night? The snuff box. If we can show that she orchestrated the theft and return, we prove she's not a victim. She's a criminal." Inspector Webb's eyes lit up. The briefcase. Julian Marsh's briefcase. It should have his fingerprints. Penelope's fingerprints. DNA evidence. She made a call. 5 minutes later, they had confirmation. The briefcase was covered in evidence. But more importantly, inside the briefcase was something unexpected. A recording device. Julian Marsh had been recording everything. Insurance policy. Proof of who was really in charge. And on those recordings was Penelope's voice. Planning thefts. Negotiating prices. Blackmailing Camilla. Inspector Webb played the audio for the palace security chief. His face went gray. "I need to interrupt the king's meeting now." They raced through palace corridors. Gold-framed paintings blurred past. Centuries of history watching them run. Marcus felt the weight of the moment. This wasn't just about catching a thief. This was about protecting the truth. About making sure lies didn't become the official record. They reached the king's private office. Guards stood outside, uncertain. Inside, muffled voices rose and fell. The security chief didn't hesitate. He opened the door. King Charles sat behind his desk, face ashen. Penelope stood across from him, mid-sentence. Tom Parker Bowles was there too, sitting in a corner chair, head in his hands. Everyone froze as Inspector Webb entered. "Your Majesty, I apologize for the interruption. But this woman is about to lie to you." Penelope's mask finally cracked. 40 years of composure shattered in an instant. "You have no right, we have recordings," Inspector Webb said calmly. She held up a phone. Every conversation, every transaction, every threat. "Would you like to hear them, or should we do this quietly?" Penelope looked at the king. For a moment, Marcus saw something unexpected in her eyes. Not anger, not fear, just exhaustion. The exhaustion of someone who'd been carrying an impossible weight for too long. "I lost my daughter," Penelope said quietly. "I did terrible things to try and save her. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm just telling you the truth." King Charles stood slowly, The truth is, you've betrayed your position. Betrayed the trust of this institution. Betrayed history itself. History, Penelope's voice broke. History is written by people who can afford to be noble. I couldn't afford nobility. I could only afford desperation. Tom spoke from the corner. Your Majesty, my mother made mistakes. Small mistakes. But Penelope turned them into blackmail. My mother wanted to come forward months ago. I convinced her to wait until we could fix it quietly. I thought I was protecting the family. I made it worse. King Charles looked at his stepson, then at Penelope, then at Inspector Webb. What's the damage? How bad is this going to get? Inspector Webb took a breath. The Edward letter is still missing. If it goes public, there will be questions, investigations. But we can control the narrative. Frame it as one curator's crime, not an institutional cover-up. The key is moving fast. Arresting Penelope now. Recovering as many items as possible. Being transparent about what happened and my wife's involvement can be explained as a victim of blackmail, which is the truth. King Charles sat back down. He looked older suddenly, tired. The weight of the crown was never just about ceremony. It was about managing impossible choices. Do what needs to be done, he said finally. Inspector Webb nodded to two officers waiting in the hallway. They entered and approached Penelope. She didn't resist, just held out her wrists for the handcuffs. As they led her away, she looked back at Marcus. I'm sorry, she said again. For trapping you? For all of it. I just wanted my daughter to live. Marcus wanted to feel anger, wanted to feel vindication, but all he felt was sadness. For Penelope, for Charlotte, for everyone caught in the machinery of desperate choices. 3 weeks later, the story broke. Not the way Penelope had planned, but carefully controlled. A palace statement about a rogue curator. An investigation into missing artifacts, most items recovered, one criminal arrested. The royal family portrayed as victims, not perpetrators. The Edward letter never surfaced. Some historians claimed it was destroyed. Others believed it was still out there waiting. A secret that might emerge someday, or might stay buried forever. Marcus returned to his night shifts. The guard who'd seen something strange and chosen to investigate, he'd been offered a promotion. More money? A day schedule. He turned it down. Someone needed to watch the archives at night. Someone who understood that history wasn't just about protecting the past. It was about protecting the truth, even when the truth was complicated. Even when the truth was painful. Even when the truth was about royal treasures, desperate mothers, and the price people pay when they love someone too much to let them go. The fog rolled through London again. Marcus sat at his station, coffee cup warm in his hands, watching, waiting, ready for the next whisper of scandal that might emerge from the shadows, because there would always be secrets, always be mistakes, always be people caught between duty and desire, and someone had to bear witness to it all.